Hi there, hope you're all doing well. The events market has been one of the hardest hit sectors by the coronavirus pandemic. It's hit everything from sporting events like the Olympics to music festivals like Noisily. But the companies involved in these big popular events are soldiering on, driven by their love of a great show. So our media star today is Nick Tearle, founder of digital and events company E1 Media Agency. On our Zoom call, I started by asking Nick what sort of things were going on backstage, so to speak, to address the incredible issues facing the events market.
There isn't an alternative right now to live events, and sadly, that's the long and short of it. And my festival clients are ranging. They're in a range of different situations. One of them is trying to raise money to survive until next year. Others are having to shift their dates, and one of them's had to change their date twice now, just because of the uncertainty in the market and when certain restrictions are going to be lifted. No one really knows at the moment. So everyone's having to just think on their feet and figure out ways to just keep engaging with their audiences and just be ready for when they're able to do stuff again.
Yeah, and you mentioned one of the big events. Of course, one of those is the Noisily Festival, hugely popular underground electronic music festival. I noticed that they have a crowdfunding page. Seems to be going well so far. Is it getting the money in?
It is going really well so far. So it launched in the first couple of weeks. They raised just over £80,000. They've got a target of £150,000, which is what they need to raise in order to survive into next year. So we help them build out the strategy to launch that crowdfunder, and also ask existing ticket holders to please donate their tickets so that the festival can continue next year. And there's still a long way to go. We've still got a lot of lifting to do there. And so we're doing all kinds of fundraising stuff. We're doing an auction. We're doing a live stream, kind of festival day in a couple of weeks. So we're pulling out all the stops really. That festival, they're long-standing clients and friends of mine as well. And so we're going the extra distance to try and help them, because if we lose Noisily, it's not a world we want to be living in.
I hear you. So to a huge extent, you're going to be driven by what government policy is around this, and this whole idea of mass gatherings, which has now been obliterated. But are there talks going on about possible ways around this? Because every industry sector is doing this. Even airlines are talking about having the middle seat empty on a plane for passengers, so you can still have crowds, but just not as close together.
Okay, so I mean, like every industry, businesses and business owners and promoters and festival operators are figuring out ways to survive and figuring out ways to make it work. Promoters are an innovative bunch, and they're always trying to work out and get a step ahead and figure out how to do things. So I know that considerations for hygiene, for cashless queuing systems, everything that you think would need to be put into place to make a festival a safe place are being considered. All of those things are in consideration, because if they don't consider these things, then it's going to be a difficult world to operate if they can't. If those measures aren't taken, it's going to be difficult to run. So I think at the moment there's a lot of time and a lot of effort going into working out how to put shows on safely.
Of course, a lot of these events are supported by and sponsored by, to some extent, by big name brands, and even just at the most basic level, a beer brand. What sort of conversations are going on with those companies who are normally present at those events?
We had just started working on brand outreach, as a new strand of our business. Right before all of this hit, and we were lining up brands to work with Noisily, and obviously those conversations dropped away pretty quickly. And I can only assume that those sponsorship budgets are still there. It's just figuring out where to place them and how they can most effectively reach those festivals, because ultimately those brands want to be involved with those festivals' audiences, and so that you do see brands appearing in some live streaming activity. I think everyone is just figuring out what can be done at the moment and trying new things.
I reported a few weeks ago on the BFI, the British Film Institute, which moved one of its usually live events, actually a few of its live events, into a digital event instead. So they turned it around very quickly from being a gathering on the South Bank at the BFI Centre on the South Bank into being a virtual show. What sort of innovations are you guys doing along those lines?
Well, obviously, live streaming is a big thing at the moment, and everyone's making the best of a bad situation, right? And for us to begin with, it was a lot of live streaming. Obviously, we've done pub quizzes, we've done pre-recorded DJ sets, you name it. You know, we're putting things live everywhere we can, and I think it's going to be an interesting shift now that restrictions are starting to lift, and not so many people are going to be indoors with nothing to do because they can go and drink pints in the park. I think that's allowed now, and so you know, it's going to get more tricky for a little while. I think, whilst the audience is going to be going down, and yet tickets still can't be sold for large events. So it's entering another new phase that we're all going to have to just figure it out. But you know, it's pretty cool. People are doing good things on a live front. Affected have been doing a great virtual festival series, and I've seen Junction 2 are launching a virtual event in June as well. So I think all of these companies are figuring out ways to work in the new world. It's interesting. A lot of cool things have come from it. You know, come from a bad situation. A lot of interesting executions have come about. So, you know, silver linings.
So I can see you're sitting there in your gorgeous office. Unfortunately, not with your usual amount of colleagues there. So what things are you guys working on right now then to keep things going?
Well, I mean, we're thinking on our feet essentially, and when the stay home order hit, we had to pivot very quickly. Many of our festival artist and venue clients were hit, you know, have obviously been hit very badly, and there was a day when 30% of our retainer business dropped in one day, which was terrifying. And thankfully, we started on a few in-house e-commerce projects a few months before, so I was able to shift my team over onto those. Literally that day, we moved over and put a lot of extra time and effort into those projects. And so those have been coming on quite nicely, but certainly not revenue generating yet. And so we've just had to pivot very quickly and take on work that, you know, we wouldn't necessarily take on and just, you know, stay alive. We're doing some work supporting the government's coronavirus communication campaign at the moment, which has been enormously helpful in terms of keeping the business alive. And in this line of work, it doesn't get much more important and meaningful than that. So I'm incredibly proud to have been asked to do that, and also still there 2 months down the line. There's still a lot to do.
So it sounds like you're being quite agile.
Yes. Yeah. We're having to iterate and move quickly in terms of the services that we're offering, and just also going the extra mile. And if our clients ask us to go a bit further, then we're just doing it. I mean, we don't really have a choice. It's not like we have anything better to do.
You mentioned your clients there. When you have those conversations, what sort of things are they saying to you?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of live streaming, and it's, you know, one example actually is there's a big challenge with live streaming, certainly on Facebook, to do with copywriting, and so we've been spending a lot of time trying to understand the landscape in which, so obviously Facebook have an automated copywriting system that takes streams down if matching content is detected. And so we've been figuring out and getting our head around that process and understanding how we can get pre-approval from labels to allow us to live stream, which has taken up a lot of time, but I think ultimately it will pay off, because it means we can actually stream content without, you know, falling foul of copyright laws. And that's been an interesting one, because obviously we're not, we would never advocate a breach of copyright. We would always like to set things up in a way so that, you know, content owners get paid. And so we've spent a lot of time researching who do we need to speak to at the labels, who are the you know, copywriting and rights management teams there. How can we figure out how to actually pay for content that we're using? Because that's a real challenge for creators. Certainly, you know, our DJ clients who want to live stream DJ sets and they're playing recorded music. You know, it's important to get that stuff lined up, because they're going to a lot of effort to do these things, and then for their streams to get pulled down is quite disheartening. So that's been a real thing for us to be spending our time with at the moment.
You've got an office full of staff, or not full of staff, but you have the staff. You also have your own workload to do. But how are you getting through it?
Well, I think it's a case of just staying optimistic. The world will get back to normal at some point. I think that you know, that there were certainly bad days towards at the beginning of when this was all hitting, and like I said, that day when a lot of our business dropped off in one hit, you know, that was terrifying. And the thought of losing everything that we've, you know, all the work that we've done to build up this company over the last couple of years, and we were literally at a point where we were starting to do quite well. And then everything hit, and the rug got pulled out, and so, you know, there have been some difficult days, but again, there have been some good days, and you know, we love innovating, we love trying new things. So whilst it's been difficult, it's presented some interesting opportunities and some new challenges for us to get involved with. So we're just making the best of it.
And what music's getting you through it all?
What music is getting me through it all? I'm a real sucker for Discover Weekly. I've lost my knack for going out and searching and looking for new music. So I'm a sucker for the algorithm at the moment. No, I mean, Noisily Festival I mentioned earlier. I'm a big fan of electronic music. So as soon as I can get back onto the dance floor, I'll be out there.